Mary O'Hara. Anderson, excuse me. Yeah, Mary O'Hara Anderson. Now, I knew Mary O'Hara in 1977. I met Mary O'Hara at a UHF meeting. And Mary O'Hara was working on a project called Handicap Housing Service, right? She was in the process of getting a gentleman a house by the name of John Schossline. Some of you know John Schossline. I was hoping he'd be here tonight too, because I've got a story about him. But Mary O'Hara, I went up to her after that meeting that night, and she was looking for people that wanted to get a house. And I said, God, you know, I'd love to get out of this place. So I was living at 2100 Bloomington. So as you that don't know, 2100 Bloomington opened up August 1st, 1975. I moved in August 3rd. I lived there for 37 months. And they raised my rent from $30 a month to $31, and I moved out. I said, I'm done. I'm not paying the rent increase. The reason I waited that long was because Mary O'Hara was helping me get a house, and she helped me get a house that was just a gorgeous, beautiful house that we did great work with. And I got it cheaper than that dollar increase. Mary O'Hara helped me get a house on the north side that I rented the top half out for $350 a month. My house payments were $350.07. Mary O'Hara helped me get a house that was cheaper than that rent that I was paying at $2,100. Now here's the kicker. It only took her a year and a half to get it done. Right? And I've always thanked her for that, because it was a good year and a half. Right? And John Walsh, I think it's just wonderful what you do now. I'm really sorry to hear about your son Adam, but I think the television show that you're doing, that, you know, I think it's just wonderful that you've left. You know, that you're doing this television show, I think is fantastic. I understand that you're catching many people that, you know, that wouldn't be caught otherwise. And what are you laughing at? What?
Wrong John Walsh.
Wrong John Walsh? You told me earlier that that was the John Walsh.
It was the hook to get you here.
And then this guy, right? This guy, I mean, you gotta give me a break, right? He's driving a convertible, right? A red convertible. Not only that, he drives a red convertible. It's not only a red convertible, it's a foreign-made red convertible, right? Okay? Pretending like he's back in the 70s, like the wind is blowing through his hair. Yeah, right. Yes. And he had to know that he wasn't going to get away tonight without me saying something about David. There's more, but I'm going to just let that stay in the closet. What? I'd like you to know, folks, anybody in here wearing a tie tonight besides David? David's head is real red right now. David, would you unbutton that top button? You can't?
It's a compulsion.
It's a compulsion? It's all about change, folks. Okay? Anybody that's wearing a tight object around your neck that's cutting off the blood circulation to the brain, please unbutton if you can. If you can't unbutton that top, have someone unbutton that top button for you. David, would you please, If you need help, I'm sure someone can help you. I'm button the top button. All right? Now, does that feel better or what? Okay. A little bit. All right? I had to say that. I appreciate your inviting me here tonight. This is a treat. Honestly, folks, I have so many things that I want to say, and they've only given me an hour and a half. You laugh. When I got hurt, that night there was a doctor at the game who had been the chief of staff at Sister Kenny Institute. And they had just talked him back into moving back to Worthington. And he was on call that night, that weekend, on Labor Day weekend. And he asked the folks, his wife hadn't even moved back down there yet, because he had, in the mid-50s, he had delivered a lot of the kids that I knew that lived in Worthington. And Dr. Hallen asked the staff, what do you do on a Friday night in a small town in Minnesota? Well, you go to a high school football game. And Dr. Hallen has been, over the years, I guess a number of people have told me stories about how Dr. Hallen was so frustrated that he sat there and he watched Mike Patrick break his neck and there was nothing he could do about it. But Dr. Hallen gave me some advice early on when I was in the hospital. That he said, Mike, I want you to learn everything you possibly can about your disability. Because you're going to be in situations, and you're going to be in a lot of situations over the few years, or the next several years, I should say, that you're going to have to teach people how to deal with you, because they're not going to know. And that was the beginning of my self-advocacy that I had to learn to deal with. Originally, I spent 7.5 months in 3 different institutions. I ended at the last 4 weeks of that hospitalization was at Sister Kenny Institute, where I learned to use some special adaptive equipment, very similar to what Jeff is using to take pictures with. And I got out of the hospital and I went home and I started sitting up all day long every day. I wasn't moving around like I do all the time now. And I ended up with a decubitus ulcer on my left ischial tuberosity. You're all sitting on your ischial tuberosities. They're protected basically by 3 muscles called the gluteus minimus, gluteus medius, and gluteus maximus. Some of us have more gluteus maximus back there than others. And when I got out of the hospital, I had very little muscle back there because I'd gone from 155 pounds down to 87 pounds. So I was in trouble. I got out of the hospital and I went home and I started to learn about myself. As a matter of fact, I learned so much about myself that I never finished high school. I'm a 10th grade dropout. Never went back to college, or I never went back to high school. Instead, I started college.